it would seem that the intravenous drugs here end up being much more expensive, really, because the sevoflurane, you can use little bits out of a bottle, but the intravenous agent, you may have to open an ampule or some other device. Is that true in your country or not?
Yeah, I mean, we don't reuse, obviously don't reuse syringes. But the problem.
So once you've opened it, it's an ampule.
But yeah, but that's why, and you often have some left. And I'm saying use the little leftover to cover the period prior to intubation. You have to just think about it and use it, and then you actually save a lot of agent by just using the tiny little bit of propofol that's left over. Yeah, here you go.
So I appreciate the fact that you use these population models to the maximum to get the least of drug use possible, but how do you cope with the individual viability? How do you guarantee your individual situation?
Well, I hope you'll come and tell me next year, Hugo.
Well, the average EEG monitor in electrode costs about 12 euros, so
yeah.
That's a bit of a problem.
But this is a good question. This exactly shows you why this is such an important area with a lot of clinical implications. The changeover from IV to inhaled is such an intriguing area. We don't know a lot about it, and it has important clinical implications. So tell me everything you know. No, I think we both agree that this is a very intriguing area, and yeah.
So we heard earlier from Dr. Hendrickx about nitrogen being a scaffold that holds it. Does nitrous do the same thing? Because it seems like that would get absorbed.
Sorry, is nitrous epileptogenic?
Yeah,
Yes.
Or does it, so it doesn't act as a scaffold?
No, it's a nitrous oxygen mixture
yeah.
with no nitrogen in there. It's like breathing 100% oxygen.
So it's the same issues as
just potent, yeah.
But your arterial PO2 pressure is higher.
Yeah, you'll
get more atelectasis, but the arterial oxygenation is actually better.
Yes, you'll actually get a boost to your arterial oxygenation.
So which one is more important?
They're different issues. I mean, atelectasis is theoretically setting you up for post-operative chest infections and complications. So one's an intraoperative issue with oxygenation, which is not a big deal. There's no good data, outcome data to show that nitrous oxide is associated with at a higher incidence of pulmonary complications. So, well, we looked at it in the Enigma 1 trial, and in fact there was a higher incidence of pulmonary complications. Pneumonia and atelectasis was higher in the nitrous group. The trouble is, every positive finding from the Enigma 1 was overturned by Enigma 2, which was a larger trial. Unfortunately, we didn't measure pulmonary complications in Enigma 2 because we were focusing on cardiac outcomes. So I don't know the right answer to that question. But look, theoretically, nitrous may increase your risk of developing pulmonary complications, but it's probably fine.
Good, David. Yeah.
Just following on for what James said, just for the avoidance of doubt, it should be 1 ampule of propofol per patient. That's the European recommendations. There is 700 cases of hepatitis C from propofol in the United States, so it's a small price to pay for medication safety.
Absolutely. I mean, I tried to drill this into the residents. Not to open up the vials too early, not to, and don't reuse them.
If you Google propofol hepatitis, you'll find the case in Las Vegas. First patient sued, was awarded $500 million.
It's Las Vegas.
The rule in Las Vegas is if someone's done you wrong, you can have 3 months of their salary, and $500 million with 3 months of Baxter's profits. That was why they got it, because that was with using the 50 ml ampules, which were an unsafe product. Sounds a little bit hard, but TEVA had applied to the FDA in 1995 to make a 10 ml ampule of propofol, and part of their black and white submission to the FDA was, we want to make a 10 ml ampule because people are getting propofol hepatitis from the 50 ml bottles. So they did it in black and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one comment. I also use the population-based models, and I combine it with an EEG monitor, which comes with a cost. But by doing this, I almost never need 1.1 Mac, but I can reduce my inhaled anesthetics a lot. And so I spent some on the sensor, but I gained some on the diminished use of inhaled anesthetics.
Yeah, Rick is the master in actually getting the most out of a good understanding of pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics, combined with an EEG-derived index. And it's amazing how little he uses, but it's a well thought out process, and he goes below 0.7 Mach, 0.6 max, but with the appropriate monitors. And it's amazing how little he uses and how fast those patients wake up. So there are several ways to Rome. Definitely. Rick, did I?
If your anesthetic takes 3 or 4 hours, you gain what you spend on the EEG sensor. So then it's not a cost.
Speaking about money, we speak a lot of M&M, mortality and morbidity. Why wouldn't we talk about money and medicine? Because it's the same. A message maybe for our younger residents, it should be understood that once the brain is equilibrated, in an ideal machine, everything would move around. But the machine has leaks. Actually, I'm using metabolic flow. I use just a little bit of sevoflurane in the beginning until the brain gets equilibrated. Then, at times, I even turn the vaporizer out. My mean consumption of sevoflurane is roughly 5 milliliters per hour or even less in an average patient. I don't know how much is the price here in Europe. In Israel, it's somewhere about 150 euros per 250 ml bottle. So make the calculation. It's only for sevoflurane, it's roughly 0.6 euro per hour, something like that. I don't know if my calculation is correct. Very, very, very cheap anesthesia and high quality. As well, I fill the vaporizer in the first day, in the first case, let's say the first day of the week. And if I work in the same room 6 or 7 hours a day, I need to refill the vaporizer by the end of the 3rd day or the 4th day. The longer the case, the lower the average price per hour.
Sure. Yeah, the question.
Just a comment, because when I was a resident, I went out to talk to Dr. Eager about the CO2 in emergence. He instructed me about MAC, and one of the things I teach our residents about MAC is I ask them not what is it, I ask them when is it, right? Because the issue is that when you look at MAC going off to sleep and waking up, it's a dynamic phase, so MAC is not valid during those times. The analogy I use is an airplane in which you've got marbles on the floor of the plane, and those are your molecules of anesthetic. When the plane is taking off, going to sleep, you're measuring at the back of the plane, the lungs, the cockpit is the brain. So when you're going to sleep, where are those marbles? Back of the plane, right? So how many are in the cockpit? Very little to none. It's only in a steady state phase when you're in steady state flying that those marbles that you sample at the back of the plane are in the cockpit. And by the same token, when you're landing that plane's coming to a stop, those marbles are where? Cockpit, right? Where are you sampling? You're sampling in the back. So I'm very careful when you're waking up a patient and you're looking at the monitor saying, look at that, all the anesthetic is gone. There's a surrogate measure for the brain, for the effect site. So you need to be very careful when you're defining what MAC is and when it occurs.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah.
Actually, this graph reads MAC doesn't work, and this is not a full graph. This part reads MAC doesn't work, MAC works. The MAC only works if you take the hysteresis into account. So this is the effect site concentration, this is the arterial one, this is the alveolar, and it's only when the effect site is identical to the arterial one that
I would suggest
that MAC works. Because only then, I mean, it's inherent to the concept of MAC, right?
I took it out.
Because you have to, the MAC definition says you have to wait for 15 minutes.
Yeah, because conceivably CO2 makes your brain more reactive at the effect site. Because even going to sleep, conceivably, if you hyperventilate a patient and drop their CO2 when you're going off to sleep, you should theoretically get the effect site off to sleep faster because the cerebral blood flow is slower, so your postural pressure has time to come up and create the gradient between the cerebral blood flow and the brain. So going off to sleep, possibly hypocapnia may be able to help you, but I haven't been able to stick microdialysis catheter in the brain to show that, but it's possible. I don't know if Jim agrees with that or not. But
hypercarbia is going to help your induction, not hypercarbia.
But if your cerebral blood flow is slow and partial pressure is there.
Hypercarbia is going to give you increased cerebral blood flow.
But you'd want slower blood flow to go off to sleep because the partial pressure is going higher. It has more time to.
Assuming you've got a constant alveolar level as measured on your end tidal concentration, then you've got that as your plasma level, which of course is incorrect from what we learned before, but it's close. You then want the hypercarbia to get the brain's time constant to speed from the 3 minutes we heard, possibly down to 1.5 or 1 minute. So it's a battle between several different phenomena, of course, but hypercarbia, as we know from the CO2 rebreathing that you've been talking
But
about.
that's emerging. That's not going to sleep. It
makes
should
the
be the
brain
opposite.
It makes the brain faster either way. Right. The brain follows.
No, because your partial pressure's got to go up to create that gradient as it goes into the brain. You want that partial pressure gradient, which is going to be high with a slow. This same thing is decreased cardiac output, right?
No.
Cardiac output is relevant when you have target control anesthesia treatment. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant.
Okay.
You guys have to talk afterwards.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think the diehards are dying too now.
We want to keep doing this. Where's the
Yeah. So thank you all. Thank you for staying so long.